Hey class, today we're going to start by practicing some phased treatment planning. So meaning we're going to make a treatment plan, but we're going to break it down into different phases of treatment. So this comes in really handy when you are doing a treatment plan for someone who needs scaling and route planning, so SRP, because this is going to be done in multiple appointments. And the problem, what happens sometimes is you tell students, or patients, you go through this whole spiel of all of this treatment that they need, why it is so important. You're like, hey, this is going to take probably up to 5 appointments. And we're going to see you periodically back for each one of these appointments and so on. And then, in a month, when that patient actually sits down in your chair for their first round of treatment, you go through 2 hours of treatment, you work for them, you complete maybe scaling in the upper right quadrant, and that's it for the day. And you're like, hey, this was great. We got your upper right clean. We're going to schedule you back for your next quadrant. And they're like, wait, you're not cleaning my whole mouth today? And then you're like, well, do you remember that conversation that we had a month ago when you were here? And I said it would take 5 different appointments, and they're looking at you with a blank stare. So this comes in really, really handy for dental hygienists who are treatment planning, scaling, and route planning in 4 or 5 appointments. But also, this will come in handy in the future when you're a dental hygienist and you're also treatment planning for treatment that your dentist is going to do. It's important to recognize that you're not only going to be doing treatment plans for you yourself, the hygienist, but also for the things that the doctor notices. And you'll learn how to do that later in this program. But for today, you're going to learn how to do SRP treatment planning, or phase treatment planning. So this is what your end goal is going to be. So you've seen treatment plans, you've done one already in your first semester that was a little bit more basic, but starting here soon in Clinic 1, you might have the opportunity, as a matter of fact, I can almost guarantee you'll have the opportunity to do one of these phase treatment plans. So again, this is going to be for a patient who needs a deep cleaning. And in this example, we're going to do it in 5 appointments. So your first 4 appointments are the actual deep cleaning appointments, where your fifth appointment is your recall appointment or your reeval appointment. So meaning the patient is going to come back, we're going to reevaluate them to check for healing to determine what our next step is. So this is very, very important for our patients. Not only are you going to enter this treatment, but this will get printed and you will actually physically go over it with the patient in the operatory and send this page home with them. It's going to be saved in their SmartDocs so we can always reference it again later if needed. But it's something physical that you can give your patient as a reminder of what you talked about in the visit. Now, also, what you'll want to recognize is that out in private practice, you're typically going to do probably 2 quadrants at a time. A lot of times, professionals are going to do a half of the mouth, so maybe an upper right and a lower right in one visit, and maybe an upper left and lower left in another visit, and then reeval. But as a student, you need a lot more time to practice this, along with your local anesthesia and doing your OHI and everything else. So you typically are going to do 1 quadrant per appointment. And your faculty is going to help you diagnose this. So you will come to us and you'll say, hey, Miss Rose, I think this patient has active perio. They have a lot of calculus and they have deep pockets. I think we need to do scaling and route planning. I'll come in, we'll agree, we'll determine how many appointments we think it's going to take, and you'll make a treatment plan for that. So we're going to look at this today. You're going to have an assignment to do this so that you can practice with it. But I want you to recognize that this is the end outcome. This is what that end treatment plan should look like. So notice that the date of the plan that we made is all here. You don't have to worry about that. But your phases are here. So when we say phase, these are separate appointments. So this is the first appointment that the patient is going to be scheduled back for. And we've scheduled them for SRP of 4 or more teeth. If you remember, we've talked about different dental codes depending on if you're doing localized SRP with 1 to 3 teeth, or if you're doing an SRP that's the majority of the quadrant and you need 4 or more teeth treated in that quadrant. So we're going to pretend today that our patient needs 4 or more teeth in each quadrant. So we're using D4341. And you'll notice we have the SRP line item here, D4341, and we've also identified what quadrant we plan to work in that appointment. and there's a $30 fee. So this is accurate for our clinic. We also have local anesthesia for that appointment, which we don't charge for in our clinic, and we're always going to do OHI, even at our SRP appointments. Okay. And then you'll see the next appointment that we're going to schedule them back for is for the lower right. All the other items are the same. And then upper left, lower left. And then the appointment number 5 is our reeval or post-operative appointment. We do not charge for this at all in our practice. That may be different when you're out in private practice, depending on what that office prefers, but we are not going to charge for that. So the total should be $120 for this SRP treatment plan, which is significantly cheaper than if our patients went out and did this in private practice, where it would range probably around $1,200 or more. So very, very significant decrease in cost for our patients here. So this is our end goal. So let's move this out of the way and focus on how we're going to do this. So this is our Eaglesoft setup. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this. And you can do SRP treatment plans or any kind of treatment plan in many, many different ways. I'm going to show you the way that I want you to learn to do it as a student. So from this very front space, I like to go straight to the appointment calendar. This is the easiest for me. You could also do it from the operatory, going into their chart that way. But for me, if I go to the schedule, and say I have my all of my schedule here, and I can go click on my patient. So I put myself in here today as the patient. So if you just highlight your patient, you can go straight up to the chart. And we're going to propose all of our treatment here. This is very, very important that you can propose treatment and recognize that you're doing it correctly. So the first thing that I want you to see is that anything in red on this treatment plan means I have proposed treatment. I put in a lot of proposed treatment. These are restorations, which we do not do in our clinic. So typically you are not going to be treatment planning for restorations in our clinic, but you will have an assignment on it later. But what I want to show you is that down here in this bottom box, you should be showing everything that is proposed should always be in red. So if you know that you're proposing something, it should be popping up here in red. If you're entering in treatment that is existing, so the patient sits down in your chair, you're just charting their restorations, it should be showing up in blue as existing. So you need to be recognizing this, because I see this a lot of times with students who are charting their patients' existing restorations, but they're all popping up as red because you're putting them in as proposed versus existing. So do watch for this when you're doing your dental charting. Okay, so from this chart, what I like to do is start adding in my different items that I want to chart and propose for my patients. And I want you to learn to do it this way. Yes, there are other ways where you can type the codes in directly into the treatment plan. I saw some of you do that with your other treatment plan assignment, and that's fine, but you're not always going to have every code that you need memorized. And so what you should learn to do is be able to enter these items from the chart, because again, even though you may have all of your hygiene codes memorized, you're not going to have every composite, every crown, every amalgam memorized, and you're going to be treatment planning those things later. So you need to learn how to use the menu and the drop downs. So the first thing that I want to do, and let me bring this treatment plan back over for a minute and show you something. So what we're going to do is, instead of entering in one SRP, one local, one OHI, and then one OHI, one local, one SRP, what we're going to do is I'm going to add my four quads of SRP first. I'm going to show you that. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to add local anesthesia 4 times. Okay, and then I'm going to add my oral hygiene instructions, my OHI, but I'm going to do that 5 times because we do OHI at every single visit, right? Even at our reeval. And at the reeval, I can go ahead and add in my fluoride varnish here, because most likely we're going to do that unless the patient has declined and you know they don't want it. You could just leave that off. But if you're not sure, you haven't had that conversation yet, go ahead and put it on as a reminder to do that. And then we're going to use our reeval post-operative code. All right, so now that we kind of know what all codes we're going to use and how many of each one, I'm going to start, like I said, by adding in my SRP code. And I'm just going to go to the drop down, and I want to look through here to kind of see. A lot of my items are already here. I have my local anesthesia, I have my different SRP codes. So we said we're going to use SRP 4 or more teeth. This is D4341. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And you can see it pops up here. Mine is already entering it as proposed. Now, sometimes it will pop up as existing. You need to pay attention to that and move it to proposed. Now, the next thing that you can do on this screen is you can go ahead and enter what quadrant you want that SRP to be on. I typically always start with the upper right. It doesn't matter what order you put it in, but I like upper right for my own memory purposes. If you forget this step, we can add it later. So I'm going to start with my upper right. I'm going to click OK. And you do have to do these separately. Don't click all 4 quadrants and try to do it all at once. It doesn't work that way. So this time I'm going to do lower right. Okay. And now I'm going to do my upper left. Notice I'm still on proposed. And now I'm going to do my lower left, still on proposed. Okay, so that's all 4 of our quads. Now we need to do our local anesthesia, and we said we're going to do 4 of these, right? So there's 1 proposed, there's 2 proposed, and there's 3 proposed. And you can check down here if you're unsure, if you've lost count. So we have 3 local anesthesias. We need 1 more. And 4. And now we need our OHI. And so I found OHI in our adult prophy here. And we said we're going to enter 5 of these, right? Because we're doing this on every single appointment of our 5 appointment sequence. Okay, I think that's 3. We can check down here. That's 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then we said we also know we're likely going to do fluoride, so we can go ahead and add in our fluoride varnish here, proposed. And then we have our re-eval appointment. I'm not sure if we have that one saved. So what we might do is add it in separately. Okay, so we're going to leave that here for now. So we have almost everything proposed except for our re-eval code. And so now that everything's proposed, you can click Save just so you don't lose anything that you've entered in. And then go over here to Treatment Plan. Now we're going to start building our actual treatment plan. So notice that if the patient has some other proposed treatment, that may pop up here. We don't want to worry with any of that right now. So we're going to go over to New Plan. And we can put in today's date, 12/15 for me, 25. And I'm going to put my name so that I know I can find this treatment plan later. And I'm going to say SRP. This is going to help me find this treatment plan later on if I need it. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. Everything keeps popping up on my other screen. Okay, so I like to make this screen large. If it comes up small for you, put it large where you can see everything. So I know sometimes, again, if the patient has existing treatments, different things in their treatment plans already, you have to kind of parse through it. You've got to pick out the stuff that you know that you entered in today. So if you look at the dates, this is the quickest way. So I can see that everything on 12/15 that I just entered is here. That's all I need. So you can go ahead and click this little plan treatment service and just click it, and it's going to go ahead and highlight everything in that section for you. That's the easiest, quickest way to do it. If you needed to select each one by hand, you could. And then I'm going to go down here to the bottom right where it says Use Selected Plan Services, and we're going to click there. Okay, so now we're all built in here except for one code. We said we're missing that re-eval code, so I can add it here. I made a little note that that was D0171, and I can add it in. So with that being said, could you add all of these here directly by hand? Sure, you absolutely could. But I recommend that you learn how to do this in different ways. I like the selecting it by the chart. I think that's the easiest way for a new student and also helps you learn to pick those items out. So that's how I do it. So now we have all of our codes here. We're ready to start phasing them. And you can see when we entered in our upper right, upper left, lower left, we entered those previously. But if you had forgotten one of these or you accidentally put upper right twice, it's really easy to fix here. You would just go back and select the correct one, click out of it, and notice I changed it. Okay, so that's really easy to add later. So don't stress about that if you didn't. So upper right, upper left, lower left. Now, Like I said, upper right typically is the first one for me. You do whatever you like. And I'm going to go ahead and just number these out 1 through 4 because we know those are our first 1 through 4 appointments, right? And then same thing with our local anesthesia. We know we need a local anesthesia for each one of these appointments, 1 through 4. And same thing with our OHI. 2, 3, 4. And we said our last OHI is going to be on our reeval appointment. So that's going to be 5, along with our fluoride varnish and our reeval code there. So you can see we're kind of wonky here on the numbers. We start out pretty good, but they're kind of weird. If you click this pound button or number key, it's going to put them in order for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our 5 appointments. And notice that it now spaces out all of these to have the coordinating items for each appointment. So remember, these numbers are identifying what's happening in each different appointment. Okay, now everything else is the same. So go to process. We're going to print our treatment plan estimate. And this is the one I did today. This is today's date, has my name, it's SRP, and I'm going to click OK. Now, going through these steps of doing print, selecting the right one, and hitting OK, what this also does is automatically saves this to your patient's SmartDocs. If you, for some reason, did a treatment plan that you said, hey, I really don't want to print this, I'm not going to see it again, I'm not going to give it to my patient, if you don't print this, it will not automatically save to SmartDocs. And I know that's kind of annoying, but this is the best way we found for it to always be in SmartDocs, because you'll be surprised at how many times patients call later that day and say, hey, I lost my treatment plan, or hey, what did we talk about today? You gave me a referral, or you whatever it is. We want to have that in SmartDocs. So this is the best way for it to automatically save in SmartDocs. It is going to print at the front desk for you in the clinic. If this is just an everyday recall patient, nothing special, we're just going to do a prophy and some fluoride, they don't have to have this printed treatment plan. But if you are doing an SRP treatment plan, please, please, please get it off the printer, send it home with your patient. As a matter of fact, run up to the front desk, grab it, bring it back to your operatory, and review this with your patient appointment by appointment, so that they are also in the understanding of why they need to come back for so many appointments. It's in writing, you've reviewed it together. They're much more likely to follow through with treatment and not give you a hard time for feeling like they didn't know previously that they were going to have to come a million times. Okay, so we can exit out of this, and just to kind of show you, if I go up here to SmartDocs, now notice I'm still selected on my patient. If I go up here to SmartDocs, it's going to automatically pull my patient's SmartDocs up. And notice what's the first thing up here on 1215 is our patient's treatment plan that keeps popping up in the other screen. And so here's what we're looking at here. We've got our appointment number 1, appointment number 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is exactly what your treatment plan should look like when you turn it in for your assignment. All right, hopefully that helps clear up some of that SRP phase treatment plans. Thanks.